Hi, everybody. This is Linda, and I'm doing this recording solo because as Karen and I were attempting to work on a video to kind of explain some of the idiosyncrasies of the 10 stitch wrap pattern, a thunderstorm moved through and knocked out our internet. So I lost her on this recording. And so I'm going to try my best to make some explanations that hopefully will clarify a few things. I thought I wanted to just start by just making a few really very general comments. Um, First of all, as you can see, the way I have this arranged or situated, the original square that we knit as part of our pre-class work is right up here in my upper right corner. This pattern, unlike the log cabin square, if some of you are familiar with that from a quilting perspective, builds into a bigger square, but unlike the log cabin square, it does not continue to build around the center square. In other words, this center square always stays in this upper right corner or in a corner, and then we build in kind of a zigzag fashion, making the square bigger and bigger as we go. You'll see that illustrated on page 12, if you numbered the pattern in this illustration. So again, we're not going round and round that center square. We're keeping the center square on an outside corner, and we're building the square larger and larger by kind of this zigzag formation. The other thing I wanted to mention is there is really no right and wrong side of our fabric. As you notice, some of the joins show up on this side of the fabric, and some of the joins show up on the other side of our fabric. So as you continue to build your square, you'll notice that those joins alternate from one side of the fabric to the other. So in other words, there's really no right or wrong side of our fabric, which I found makes it a little bit more difficult to talk about. On my sample, you'll notice that I have some different color yarn going on here. And I did this simply to show you, to make it a little more, to stand out the different kinds of squares we have or corners that we have. Once you work through that, the first set of written instructions, which I think is a total of about 14 pages, you will find that your project gets quite a bit simplified in that you only have two kinds of corners to be concerned about. The first is a single corner. And although this white corner doesn't show up too well, I'm going to see if I can bring it up here and make it a little clearer. The single corner is this one little square, and it's made up of two triangles. You'll see the first triangle is here, and I did that with short rows, going from the wide base up to the two stitches at the very corner. And then I did step 2, which built the second triangle that completed this square. And it sent us in this direction. So this is what we've called in our second meeting, we called the straightaway, because you are doing a join, and you can see I was doing the join on this side, but I was knitting across 9 stitches and then executing the join to connect my stitches with the outside edge of my square. When you're doing a corner, one of the things to look at to determine whether you're ready for a single corner or the double reverse corner is it an inside corner? Will this be an inside corner? And one of the ways to tell is this diagonal line that runs through our square. In order to continue this diagonal line, you need to do a single, when you get to this corner, you will need to do a single corner, and that will maintain the diagonal line. When we get to an outside edge, what we need to do, as I can show you on this one, I was working on this side, doing the join, and I got up to here, 10 ridges from the very top of my work. And I put, just to make sure that I didn't do this straightaway too far, I put in a stitch marker in that ridge, just 10 ridges from the very top of my fabric. And when I got to there, now normally you won't change your yarn color, but just to make it easier to see, I did change. And so you can see I did a double reverse corner. And the double reverse instructions are on page 7 of your pattern. And it is comprised of 4 steps. Step 1, which creates this first triangle. Step 2, which creates another triangle that completes this square. Step 3, my first gray triangle, and then step 4. And when you've completed step 4, then you are able to do what we call the straightaway, where you're knitting 9 stitches across and joining to the edge of the fabric. And you'll see I did that all the way to the very edge. I didn't stop early. I knit the straightaway all the way to the edge, and then I did an inside corner, which would be a single corner. Your single corner instructions begin on page 10 and are just made up of step 1, which creates this first triangle, and step 2. And then I began to work in this direction. So you can see the reverse double corner allows me to work in this direction, do the corner, the double corner, and then begin working in the opposite direction. So I worked this way on this top part, and I worked this way on this rust section. I did a single corner here, and then I worked up the straightaway until I got to 10 ridges from the very outside edge of my work. This is going to maintain the outside edge always. All right, so as you can see, I've started working, I lost my little marker here. I've started working a reverse double triangle, and I am on step 1, which you'll find on page 7, and I am ready to work. I just did a wrap and turn, and I am ready to start ridge number 8 of step 1. And so to do that, I will knit 2 and then join. So I will knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, and join. And if you remember, the way we join is to slip this stitch as if to knit, bring your working yarn forward to create a yarn over, go into the next ridge or the bump and pick up a stitch. I'm going to put my needle under the slipped stitch and the what I call the join stitch. And I'm going to pass both of those over top of the stitch I picked up. Turn my work. Now to complete the join, we need to slip this first stitch from the left needle as if to purl. I'm going to move my working yarn to the back in the knit position. I'm going to knit 1 stitch and execute a wrap and turn. So I bring my yarn forward, slip the stitch, as if to knit, move my working yarn to the back, slip it back to the left needle, bring my working yarn to the front again, turn my work, and I'm going to put 1 more little marker, stitch marker, on my right needle. So you can see all of these little stitch markers have indicated all the wrap and turns that I've executed as part of step 1. All right. Now I think that a lot of people had question about the ridge number 9 at the top of page 8. And we're going to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you knit the first stitch, slip this join stitch knitwise, bring your yarn forward, pick up a stitch right in that very corner, pass the stitches, both the slip stitch and the join stitch. If I can get my needle in there. Okay, I'm going to pass both of those stitches over my picked up stitch, turn my work, and instead of doing a slip as if to purl, we're going to knit this first stitch and do a wrap and turn. So I'm going to bring my yarn forward, slip my stitch, bring the yarn to the back, slip it back, bring my working yarn to the front, turn my work. Whoops, I lost my needle out of there. And knit that last stitch. So now I have completed step 9, ridge number 9 of step 1. And so now I'm ready to move on to step 2. So you're going to be starting on this side. So I'm going to knit the first 2 stitches. And I'm going to take that, remove that stitch marker and do a wrap and turn on the next stitch. Turn my work and knit 2 stitches. Okay, turn my work again. And I'm starting on the wrong side of my work, or on this side of my work. I'm going to knit 3. If you've been slipping the first stitch of these outside edges, you could slip that first stitch. That counts as your first knit. Knit 1, 2, remove a marker, wrap and turn the next stitch. Turn my work and knit 3. Okay. And you're going to just continue working in this fashion to create the second triangle of step 2. So I'm going to turn my work. Now I'm going to do ridge number 3, which is to knit 4. Or if you want to slip that first stitch and then knit 3. Remove the marker, wrap and turn this next stitch. I'm going to knit back to the beginning of that round. Okay. Turn my work again. Now I'm going to start ridge 4 by slipping the first stitch, knitting the next 4 for a total of 5 stitches worked. remove my marker, bring my yarn to the front, slip the stitch, move my yarn to the back, slip the stitch back, move my working yarn again, and turn my work. Now I'm going to finish ridge 4 by knitting 5 stitches. Turn my work again. I'm going to slip that first stitch as if to knit. And now I'm going to begin ridge 5 by working the next 5 stitches for a total of 6 stitches, including the stitch I slipped. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to remove the marker and do a wrap and turn on the next stitch. So I'm going to slip the stitch, move my yarn again, slip it back, bring my yarn forward, turn my work, and now I need to complete that bridge by knitting 6 stitches back to the beginning. Oops, I lost a stitch here. Just popped right out of there. Normally this is when I would use my crochet hook. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to knit back to the beginning of the round. Okay. Turn my work. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches to get to the next stitch marker. So I'm going to be working on ridge number 6. Slip that first stitch and knit to the marker, or that's a total of 7 worked stitches. Remove my stitch marker and then do a wrap and turn on this next stitch. Move the yarn, slip the stitch. Oops, I lost another one here. Move the yarn again, slip the stitch back, complete the wrap, turn your work, and knit back to the beginning of the row. Okay. All right, I'm going to turn my work, and now I'm going to begin ridge number 7. I need to work 8 stitches, and I'm going to begin by slipping that first stitch, knitting the next 7, remove the marker, and do a wrap and turn. Bring my yarn forward, slip the stitch, move my yarn again, slip the stitch back, and move my yarn one more time. Turn my work, and knit back to the beginning. Okay. All right, turn my work. Now I'm going to begin ridge 8. And I'll start with a slip my first stitch as if to knit. Knit down to where I have one stitch remaining on my left needle. Do a wrap and turn with this last stitch. Move my yarn forward, slip the stitch, move my yarn to the other side, slip the stitch again, bring my yarn to the front, turn my work, and knit to the beginning. And then the final step for step number 2 is ridge 9, which we're just going to knit all 10 stitches over and back, turn and come back. We're not doing any wrap and turns on this final round. So I'm just going to knit all the stitches on my needle. Turn my work and knit back. Okay, now I've executed step 1 and step 2 of the double reverse corner. Now you would start, turn your work, and begin step 3. So you're going to just knit to the center, wrap and turn this stitch. So you're going to be creating a triangle that's shaped something like this. So I have the first 2, half of that reverse double corner, and then I'm going to make another triangle, another triangle, and then I'll be able to join heading this direction. I will go all the way to the very corner and then execute a single corner at this edge. So I hope that helps you. Again, happy knitting, and we can't wait to see your finished projects. Bye-bye.